This to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in. What a comeback.
All right, welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. Today we're celebrating a victory.
We are.
Tuesday.
2 in a row.
2 in a row.
Club Dub comes back twice in a row.
We need to convert this place into Club Dub.
Yeah.
A strobe light or something.
If we have any listeners or viewers that know how to do that, then hit us up.
Doesn't your wife?
money.
Your wife knows how to do this.
She does. We just have
Set
to
up the
It's
Deadpool
true.
tent, right?
It's true. Lizzie could probably turn it into a Club Dub with
I think we should do that.
the right equipment.
After wins, we should have it. It should be Club Dub in here.
I mean, we do have a. We're actually on the field, but if say the background was a green screen, we could, create a Club Dub video behind us.
We could do that.
Damn.
I'll look up green screens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, we got the win. Hey, we were kind of bracing ourselves for the interim coach, the historical interim coach letdown. I think they're historically 18% in games 2 after they get their first victory, but there was no letdown. There was no lack in the RIZZ. The RIZZ came through, and look, the team overperformed. I was listening back to our predictions episode, and all of us kind of had a consensus that, hey, was the offensive performance we saw against Atlanta kind of the extent of what we think this offense is capable of versus the Browns, and they showed out a little bit more. I mean, a lot more. I think it was, the running Browns had a couple of plays that just broke that we didn't get against Atlanta, but I mean, there was a lot of good stuff happening on Sunday.
Yeah, I'll say this: the two big things that came out of left field were Jameis not really turning it over, not spraying up the interceptions like we thought he would, and then Taysom Hill turning into fucking Superman and just going bananas.
Yeah.
Which I almost bet on a 3-touchdown game. Like, I was looking at the bets on FanDuel before.
What were the odds on it?
They were pretty good.
1,500 or something
They
like that?
were pretty good. So I actually took Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau. I put like $10 on each of them to have 2 touchdowns, just trying to hit something crazy and big. Figuring we really didn't have any weapons to throw to, not counting on Taysom doing that. And I was looking at the odds. I saw 3 touchdowns. I'm like, man, that could happen. But I didn't pull the trigger.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Juwan got one, so that was good.
And Foster almost had one. The one he was tackled on like the 4.
Yeah.
Called back for a penalty, though.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. I ended up going to the game. I'll say it was nice. We had most of the Brit contingency that we knew was in town for the Falcons game. A few of them hung around for this past weekend. We got a chance to hang out with Mike and Charles, Scottish Houdat, MKC Pep on Twitter, and then Mike's friends, Michelle and Matt, watching the Tyson fight, if you want to call it a fight. That was nice getting to hang with them on Friday, but Mike and Charles made it to the game, and we ended up – I got tickets like end zone, second level, and then they ended up just sitting by me, but it was – the reason I bring that up is like the first time that I can remember in a long time that the Dome was like a party. I didn't go to the Panthers game, but – that was game 1, and it was a little bit different.
That was like a party.
Considering the opponent. But, I mean, it's the first time like this late in the season, and I know what our record is, but, the Dome, people were just having fun in the Dome, and it was great. Ended up sitting next to a couple of Browns fans, and there was multiple times when they were like, oh, God, we're so bad. We're so bad. And I hadn't really sat next to fans of a fellow, bad team in a while, so it was kind of funny.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but so Mike was in town for 2 games.
Yep.
And they went 2-0 while he was in town. So I think we kind of need to petition him and
same with Charles.
And Charles to maybe move here and see if we can get that whole 17-0 thing going.
Charles posted the wins for New Orleans teams when he was here because he went to the Pels game where we beat the Nuggets out of the blue.
Yeah.
And I think he's like 4-0 the past 2 years because they won.
He and Rizzy.
They won last year when Charles was in town too. So he's got 2 Saints games this year, 1 last year, and then the Pels game this year, and no losses. Which
it's a good run.
I mean, and shout out to Charles getting to meet Demario Davis at the airport.
Yeah,
on the
that's
way
pretty
back.
awesome.
I think those pictures are awesome. I think we've reposted them on Twitter. We will. But shout out those guys. Made for a fun weekend. But overall, the atmosphere in the Dome was great. You can say it's cliche or doesn't really mean anything, but I do think there's definitely a different energy on the team with RIZZ there. What it means long term, probably there's a decent chance it means a whole lot of nothing long term, but at least it has rejuvenated this season, and it's not just tearing our hair out every game. Something to look forward to on Sundays, regardless if we make the playoffs.
Yeah, which is still unlikely, but Atlanta's trying to do their best, Atlanta, for us. I would say it does get interesting if they were to lose this week while we're sitting at home. That would make things very interesting, being, one game back at that point?
Yeah.
They do have the tiebreaker on us, so we're back in the same situation as last year.
Yeah, we have to finish a game ahead of them in the standings.
Same thing that happened with Tampa last year. We're in the same exact spot. Not much has changed. The one thing that I take from this game is at some point we have to acknowledge how big of a difference Carr makes on this team.
Yeah.
Even the games he lost were very tightly contested other than Kansas City, which is at Kansas City. The teams we've lost to, obviously the Panthers meltdown. He started that game slowly in his first game back, ended up having a really good game. We melted down.
Yeah.
Other than that, lost to the 8-2 Eagles, the 9-1 Chiefs, I believe, and what's his other loss? There's one more.
Falcons, Eagles,
Falcons meltdown,
Chiefs,
right?
Yeah.
The Shaheed game, the deflected interception, the game we dominated on offense. The offense is completely different with him in there than it is without him. So I was kind of texting some of the stuff about him as I was thinking that with Max. I went and kind of see what his path has been with the Saints, see if I can pull it up real quick. And some of the numbers are pretty shocking, honestly. And even though I'm more of an apologist than most people probably for him.
It's a good thing you acknowledge that.
I think, let me see if I can pull him up. As a starter with us, he's 13-12. And I think you have to give some context to what your expectations of him were coming in, which we've beaten to death on here. Obviously, I think we all agree there. Yeah. No one here thought he would come in and be Drew Brees and lead a team and be the reason. We thought if we had the good team coming off with the good defense when he came in, that if you put everything around him the correct way, that maybe he had a chance to win games and make playoffs.
And a real quick addendum to that is people didn't actually expect him to play at that level. Way too many fans got caught up in how much the total of his contract was and thought that because he got paid that much, he should damn near play at that level, which we've gone over is just
He's
false.
not paid that much.
It's just
so
not valid.
We need to get over that.
Yeah, and let me add something real quick before you keep going. He was elevating people last week and this week.
Yeah. He's got nothing.
He's got nothing to work with other than Valdez-Scantling, who's just gone apeshit the last 2 weeks, and then Taysom, obviously. But Carr was making plays, and he was elevating people around him this week, especially, man. So
and y'all know there's a spectrum of like Carr perspective, even at this table. Like Nick being on the
what was it called? The Jameis derangement syndrome that Jameis 101 was always pushing on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
there is now the Carr derangement
in the other way.
syndrome.
The other way,
the other way. So
anyway, you have to call a spade though. Like you said, he's elevating people.
He's playing very well.
The offensive line is not allowing as many sacks since he's been back. And yes, we got McCoy back this week, but he did
went out again.
Went out for a little while. He
went out for the last quarter and a half.
Significant amount of time. He wasn't there last week.
He's supposedly okay though, right?
Yeah,
they're
he's
thinking.
okay.
They're thinking.
But hold on. Let's let Nick finish that point.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to look up this. See if you can find it on what I sent you. But essentially, when I went and looked at what he's done, and I guess I'll admit my expectations maybe weren't as high as some people. We've talked about the money. The money is more than a fair payment to a middle-of-the-road quarterback. He was paid as a middle-of-the-road quarterback. I think that's what he is. Maybe
that's a fact people just need to wrap their heads around.
Right.
Okay, it just is.
With all that in mind, what have we given Carr since he got here? What I thought we were giving him was a really strong defense.
Yep.
We were bringing Michael Thomas back. We had up-and-coming Chris Olave and Shaheed. We had AK at 27 years old. I was thinking we were giving him something to work with for the first time in a long time for his career. What have we actually given him? An injured offensive line, a declining defense, skill players who don't stay on the field ever. And, what happened to the offensive line this year was ridiculous.
Because I'll
for that
say
16.
even going back to last year, the defense, while their rankings at the end of the year looked good, if that's all you looked at, we all saw that middle stretch of
about
the
6
season,
or 7 games where they got throttled.
torched.
Yeah. And we're going through that right now. Still, even this game, they gave up 450 yards again.
The Judy reception of just stands out to me.
Yeah,
It was just-
Alante again. So
yeah.
So I think seeing what he's actually had to work with versus what maybe I thought he'd have to work with, and all of us thought he'd have to work with. Did you find it? The exact numbers? I can give you. I'd sent Max a list of his numbers since you don't say it. But he's 13-12 as a starter. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now he also left 2 of those games. One we were going to win. We got the Green Bay game. We were going to win that game.
Yeah.
We went 3 and out 5 straight drives after he left the game, and we were up 17 to nothing.
You could give it. There's the reality. You are what your record is, but there are some games that are.
But 13-12, still a winning record
close.
considering all the injuries. He was. Yeah, there you go. QB rating in the NFL over the last 2 years. He's 5th in the league in QB rating. He's 10th in touchdown passes. He's 3rd fewest interceptions in the league. 17th in yards per game, which is kind of where we think he is as an actual quarter. That he would fall somewhere in that. And he's 13th in wins. He's actually 13th in wins.
That's insane.
And he missed 3 games. Okay, so I think we have to acknowledge that he's probably delivered on the contract, and been the guy you kind of felt you were getting. But we have not been able to put that elite roster around him that I think maybe we thought we had 2 years. Not elite, but top 10 roster we thought we had.
We didn't build on what he came here with.
Right.
Like we thought we're giving him all the things you said when he got here.
Right.
And the expectation was that we could even build from there.
Right.
That if we
And
were
none of
successful
it's
enough, we'd be attractive for free agent skill players, offensive linemen, or even
Draft well
even
a couple
draft,
years and then elevate, right? We
And-
knew we were getting older on defense. We knew that. But
And
they
that-
were a very
yeah.
good defense 2.5 years ago.
Correct.
Or 2 years ago. They were not a great defense last year, like you just said. And
Right.
this year, they are a terrible defense. They're
Yeah.
bottom 3 in the league this year.
Yeah.
So, basically I was going back and forth with Max on this too, does it make me in any way rethink how we go forward? That's a difficult question because he is 33, correct? He's turning 34 next year.
Yeah.
Well, then there's go forward in terms of, are we talking go forward for another year or go forward in terms of the next 3 years?
Do we? There's a lot of everyone keeps saying we need to get out of Carr, right? So, do I rethink? Do we have to get out of Carr with the current situation? That's a very difficult question because I don't think we have a ton of young talent. So, does it make sense to maybe move on like Detroit did with Stafford, for example? Mm-hmm. Does it make sense at a 35-year-old quarterback? He's here next year. We know that. With a 35-year-old quarterback, and you're clearly in rebuild. Most likely, unless you just crush, say, this draft. Say we kill it, we get 4 starters, and something. If we get a 17 draft or something, maybe that narrative changes. But we need a lot of stuff. We've got bad cap situation, but I think it's easy to say you just move on from him. If you could get even a Goff back like Detroit did. And obviously Stafford's a much better player than Carr, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's
So
not debatable.
that won't happen in
feel like
this case.
Getting
But-
a Goff would be basically like a younger Carr.
Yes, but a
Younger.
team that could elevate their position. Like if you gave Carr to Detroit in that situation, with all the skill they have,
Yeah.
I
he
think
could
Carr
excel
would
it.
be doing what Goff is doing
I do
if
too.
he was in Detroit.
That's what I mean, and that's why I really liked the signing when we did it. There weren't a lot of options. There
Right.
was no path in the draft. But do we keep riding with him at this rate, which is bottom 10 payment, and just keep going and hope you hit the draft, and then wait for an opportunity to draft one?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we're not going to get in the top 5 this year. We know that.
Yeah.
Um,
We're not going to get in the top 10.
Agreed.
Still could, but yeah,
I
I get
see
what
it.
you're saying. Yeah.
So, and if you're not in the top 5, then you're kind of reaching anyway, right? So what do you do?
Well-
Do you take a flyer with your first round pick if there's someone there you like? Yeah, I would do that. But I also don't think we automatically have to move on from Carr.
Yeah,
Why?
but and I'm gonna say what I texted you the other day was it's going to depend on the new coach. We just don't know
Yeah.
what they're going to come in, what mindset they're coming in with. You know, they might come in and say,
To finish my thought, then you take over. What I don't want to see is a Carolina trade.
yeah, none of us want to see
I
that.
don't want anything like that. So I'd rather we keep Carr around as long as he's willing to be paid at that level, which is low. I'd rather keep him around and take chances on late round quarterbacks if there's someone we like over the next couple of years. Maybe someone is there that they like. I don't like any of them next year. I don't think.
I don't either. I don't either. No, I agree with keep riding with Carr next year now, but who's the coach? Because you might get a coach who's going to want a veteran quarterback like a Carr and is going to feel better and say, hey, I can win games with this guy. This guy will give me a better chance for success out of the gates. You also might get a head coach who comes in and says, no, I know I'm going to get more than a year here. This isn't the Carolina Panthers situation. I'm going to have 4 to 5 years. Let me get somebody young. Let's rebuild. We just don't know what direction the team is going to go in with the head coach.
Right.
If it were me, I mean, I don't like the quarterbacks coming out this year. You know, we've all talked about it.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them.
I don't think any one of them are truly worth a top 10 pick, but just by the nature of the value of that position, they're going to get pushed up the draft board.
Yeah.
You hate Carson Beck, right?
I hate Carson Beck.
And
You do?
And
No way.
I think we all agree overrated as could be coming into this year. But let's say they
He's
love
like the
him.
fifth or sixth quarterback.
Right,
now,
but
too.
I'm just using this example.
Yeah.
Let's just say that coach, we end up picking 18. Our coach does all these workouts. Like, I see it. That's Bo Nix to him, right? All right. I wouldn't have a problem with them taking him at 18.
I'll tell you right now, I will talk myself into any quarterback if a coach comes in and is like, that's my guy. I've watched enough of him. I believe in him. I can win with him. Right. And we don't do the Bryce Young trade. If we are sitting at pick 13,
I don't want to trade at all.
I don't want to trade at all.
Yeah.
I'll trade back and get more
Yes.
picks.
Yeah.
But if we're sitting at pick 13 and I'm throwing a random hypothetical out there, Jalen Milroe. Let's say the new coach, whoever it is, or if it's Rizzy, whoever it is, if that coach is like, I've seen this guy play, I've watched him in workouts, I think I can win
I'll
with
think
him.
we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I'll
Still
tell you
gotta be
this,
able to
I
throw the
won't be
ball.
thrilled about it when it happens, but I promise you by the end of the draft weekend, I will have talked myself into it and I'll be excited.
And I know it's just a hypothetical, but if it was Milroe, I'd be like,
Okay,
tailback, right?
Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Tight end.
Okay, sure. And
Shedeur
the other-
Sanders,
yeah.
whoever it may be.
But your point to who's the coach going to be is spot on, because not only is it who is the coach, but what side of the ball is the next head coach going to be? You know, like
That's a good point.
We have Rizzy, obviously, who's going to be. Look, if Rizzy keeps doing what he's doing, he will absolutely be a candidate. And if he only loses, like
what do you think?
if he only loses
What do you
two
think
more
he
games, he's
what do
going
you
to be
think he
top of
needs
the
to go
list.
to? What do you think his record needs to be in the final? How many games?
So
does
he
get?
will have coached what, 8 games?
8 games. Yeah,
I think
7-1
6
for
and
me.
2. Minimum.
I think 6-2 at a minimum.
Yeah, 6 and 2 is minimum for me because that's a good stretch
'Cause look,
for
man,
interim.
I think his only chance is them getting in the playoffs. And I think that's what it should be.
But that's a stretch. Look, I looked at the power rankings, their power rankings, but the remaining opponents are
terrible.
there's 3 in the top half, and then there's 3 in the bottom. I mean, 2 of them are the very bottom between the Raiders and the
The
Giants.
Giants are tanking at
But
this
then
point.
you've got Green Bay,
Rams.
the Commanders, and the Rams, who are all top half. Rams are right at 15. So if Rizzy can take the final 6 games and manage, if he goes 6-2, that means he's stolen one against the teams that we maybe shouldn't have beaten, and possibly one of them on the road. Now, at least we got the Commanders and the Rams at home. That Green Bay game is just going to be god awful tough.
Must that be the one we win?
But maybe that's one that Rizzy gets the team so hyped for. We're in Green Bay, frozen tundra. Let's fucking
Hey
go.
man, they're playing for him. He's going to
yeah.
have him playing.
Yeah.
But
I guess, but back to my point, like how we go forward has just as much to do with what side of the ball the next head coach
Yeah,
comes
I
from,
agree with
and
that.
or if it's Rizzy. Because if it's Rizzy, you still stand a chance of keeping Clint around, and then your offensive draft strategy goes around Clint. And so I put a lot more weight in the returning offensive coordinator saying, yeah, that's my guy. I want to go. I think I can work with that guy. I can develop him even if he's not the starter this year. Here's why I like what I see. And that's also assuming that Clint continues to progress like he
if
has.
Clint's around, they're keeping Carr, I think.
No, I think
No
they're going to
doubt.
keep Carr for at least next year, no matter what. We're not trying to like exit Carr next year, but more generally, I'm still not. Even with all that said, even if it's Clint next year and we bring in keep Rizzy, or you bring in a defensive-minded head coach that wants to keep Clint around because of connections or whatever, I still don't know that I'm thrilled, even if Clint is saying, yeah, that guy needs to be a first-round pick at quarterback, just because I don't like the class. I feel like everyone's going to do what they do every year, where there's so many things we're picking apart with these guys right now, and it happens.
gonna be
It
brutal.
happens every year.
It's gonna be
college,
brutal
The
once we get to
college
March.
season ends. They start doing their workouts. They start running 40 times. They start lifting. They start doing national interviews. They have their PR teams kick it into high gear, and next thing you know, come draft, you're like, hey, I mean, this QB class really isn't that much worse than last year, which we know today would be an utter falsehood.
I don't think that's going
but-
to happen. I think if anything else, more warts are going to get exposed as they get into the picking them completely apart once the draft season starts. I think if we're already picking them apart this much and calling it a shit class,
Yeah.
I think it's going to get even worse.
You're hard pressed to find any NFL draft where at least one quarterback prospect is not described as, quote, generational.
I don't know. That's
know,
not
like-
true because what was the Jim Druckenmiller year?
Even
where he was
Anthony,
the only
even
one? That
Anthony
was
Richardson
terrible.
was drafted as
No, but-
potentially like generational athlete.
But
you know,
he
and-
was a generational athlete.
Who?
right.
But,
But
Anthony Richardson.
Oh,
but he's a guy
yeah,
who,
but
if
Time
you
out.
watched him,
No,
I mean,
there are years like the EJ Manuel year where
Yeah.
the first quarterback was taken at what pick
there's
15.
more of those years than you
There's
think. if you
Christian,
go-
Probably.
the
No, I mean,
Christian
that could be-
Ponder year where he goes
look,
like
I'll admit it could be complete recency bias on my part, but
it is. It is.
But you know, like the way the league is progressing, teams are allowing themselves to
What about the Mac
to fall
Jones
more
year?
in love with.
What about the Kenny Pickett year?
Yeah,
Sean
there
Payton wanted to draft
but
Mac Jones.
there are years where the quarterback doesn't go until the late teens.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think this year they're going to get pushed up a little bit higher because I think they're better than Mac Jones and Kenny Pickett. But there are years.
Yeah.
Who
I
else
think
was with
Christian
Mac Jones?
Ponder.
Who else was with Mac Jones? I feel like I'm forgetting somebody though.
That you are. Somebody was ahead.
Well, put it this way.
But Kenny Pickett
The-
was the first
because-
QB.
Kenny Pickett
Look,
was, and then it was Matt Corral was like
Right.
the next one.
Out of the three of us, I definitely trust y'all's recall on the historical,
Might have been Trevor Lawrence here, actually,
pinpoints
Mac
like that
Jones.
than I,
I
do
think it
my own.
is.
So
Yeah.
my point is, based on what y'all have said, based on that history, that there have been draft classes where the quarterbacks really aren't that good. If this draft class matriculates into one in which it's a consensus amongst the analysts and scouts that the first QB taken is going to be somewhere in 15 range, then we're on track. But if come spring, if we start hearing things like, hey, there might be 2 or 3 quarterbacks taken in the top 10, then we know that it's not something we need to fall for, right? We need to
Right.
stay away from that think, because it's just not true with this class. And so I'll wrap it up with this.
Okay.
It just sets up, especially this next year and maybe even the year after that, where you're in the perfect spot with whatever your draft pick's going to be, what we're forecasting it to be, the current personnel on your team, maybe salary cap situation worked in, but we know that's malleable. You're in a perfect situation to build around the quarterback position,
Which is what we all agree on we should be
solidify
doing.
the rest of the
Yeah.
team. Let Carr sit there as a placeholder, because you don't have to wait but more than 2 or 3 years before you do get that class.
Yeah.
Where there's guys who are can't miss, and you should trade up to get them.
Well, let me say this. So I think we can all agree we're going to win a few more games.
Yeah.
We think. And I think we're picking somewhere between 12 and 17 when all
Yeah.
is said and done.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, there are 3 quarterbacks right now that the consensus seems to be saying are going to be picked in the top 10.
Yeah, but
It's
Shador,
Shador
Cam,
Sanders, Cam Ward, and Milroe are the 3. And
Milroe,
they're
really still
they,
projected?
they fucking
That's wild.
love him.
There's no way I'm drafting that guy.
So
Colts will.
Well, how's that?
they,
Look,
they already did.
and look,
basically.
and they're stuck
They're
in
like
Justin
this-
Fields' world. Like, whoa, did you see him bulldoze that guy?
they'll
They'll
take
hang
the
around
L.
for 5
Right.
years and
It
they'll
was,
lose.
like the Cardinals drafted who did they draft after Josh Rosen?
Kyler
Murray.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you can do a lot worse than Kyler Murray.
teams have
Still
jumped
hadn't
ship.
won anything.
Teams have jumped ship faster on their
Most
first
of
round
the quarterbacks in the picked in the first round don't win anything.
They like, you know.
The Jags will pick them.
No, the Jags are married to Lawrence.
Yeah, they're
I think by any account, even if you remove Milroe, there are 2 quarterbacks, Sanders and Ward, who are going to go in the top 10. So realistically, where we're probably going to end up picking,
Yeah.
we are not going to be able to pick one of those three. It's not going to be like last year.
Where's
where there were the
where's
six
like
quarterbacks
Queen
that went in
Ewers
the
right
top
now?
And-
Where's he projected?
second round, third round.
So if they go work him out and like him, and they take him in the second, I have no problem with that.
I
If
don't
they
either.
like him,
Yeah.
what I would say is we know it's not coming from free agency. It's literally the only time that's ever been successful is Drew coming off of a blown shoulder
DeMario.
and Peyton.
No, you're
I'm
talking
just
about
talking quarterback.
quarterbacks.
And
Oh,
Peyton,
QB, yeah,
who
yeah.
just had a fusion like Chase Young. So, and 3 neck surgeries. Those are the 2 examples of quarterbacks who came in and were like immediate difference makers that I can recall in the last 20 years.
It's a complete anomaly.
It just doesn't happen. So you know it's not coming from there. Carr, from that perspective, has actually been a pretty successful free agent
second
quarterback.
round pick too.
So we know it's not coming from there. I really don't want to see us go try and I guess what I'm trying to say is that's far from our biggest problem right now.
Exactly.
So
we don't need to be
reach.
going down that well.
If there's someone there, fine. And you love him, I'm good with it. I don't want to see more picks going out the door trying to chase a quarterback that we would be extremely lucky if they were better than Carr.
Okay, so
And also in terms of like draft strategy, we're not that far removed from just the general strategy and group think of like we're using the draft to plug holes that are keeping us from taking the next step. We're not there anymore.
right, we need to be building.
You know,
and
so
look,
many
We did
places.
last year because you're not going to get Kool-Aid with the current roster we walked in the season with if you're not chasing the best players.
Yeah,
They thought he was a
And
first-round talent. They went and got
I
him.
loved the pick when everyone's
Fuaga
like,
was-
"Wait, a cornerback?" I was
yeah,
like,
but I also think they were doing that with the idea that Lattimore was out the door because
But
they
it wasn't a hole. You weren't plugging a hole.
No, but you were plugging a future
and look,
hole.
one of the things that DA said, you know, for all his
Because remember, they redid Lattimore's contract in December to make him able to be traded. And then you never know. They might be looking at like, we're probably not going to throw money at a Debo unless he really balls out.
I think it was part that, and then the other thing is what DA would say, despite all of his warts, that you literally can never have too many cornerbacks in the NFL, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, so even if you had never traded Marshawn,
If only we felt the
you
same way
still-
about pass rush. Huh?
I know, huh? Well, no, they try on pass rush.
They
they
get these like
They get run stopping ends.
they let
they
the
get
all
these
pro
Mack
out
trucks.
the door, and they keep drafting the ones that are not
the Saints
good.
think we can never have too many Chevrolet Suburbans
Right.
at defensive
They're not
end, but it's
drafting
like,
pass rush.
dude,
They're drafting big, huge
Yeah,
ends
and
that
they're
that stop
drafting
the run.
19
Okay, hold on. Before,
1995.
I'm gonna put a bow on the quarterback talk though. Going off
Yeah.
of Dane Brugler, who's the draft analyst for the Athletic, and I find he does probably the best job with these rankings. You
Yeah.
know, just watching him.
Remember you
beginning of the year all the way
mentioning
through.
him last year.
Yeah, and so his quarterback rankings in his top 50, which came out the other day, he has Cam Ward as the top quarterback as the 16th best player.
But that's top 10 pick.
The 22nd best player, Jalen Milroe. The 23rd, Shadur Sanders. And the 30th, Nussmeier. No other quarterbacks in the top 50.
Yeah, yeah. It's not the year to do it. You know, like just stay away from it at all costs, please.
Like,
Because,
Nussmeier needs to come back for the senior year.
You know, I would say
because he is not playing well.
I would say we should go all in on edge, but like Nick said, give it as long as Loomis is in the building. I don't trust us to get the kind of edge that we would all want.
I want an offensive lineman. I want Will Campbell because there's all this talk that Will Campbell might have to play guard in the pros because apparently his arms are shorter than the length that they want. So there's a lot of talk that he might be switching to guard, but I would take Will Campbell because he'll probably be available in that range that we're going to be in, and just shove Penning out the door. Penning's not where he needs to be. He's getting better, but he is still not the game in, game out. We know he's going to be dependable. Like Fuaga this past week didn't give up one pressure.
Then it's Myles Garrett.
I'm sorry, he gave up 2 pressures, I think it was,
Well,
with
Penning
no tackles.
didn't last week. Didn't give up a pressure,
Like
right?
Penning's been doing well, I think, but we need to see it for a longer
I
extended
don't
period of
trust
time.
Penning yet.
Yeah, we don't. That's the thing. We don't trust him.
Fuaga, I feel very good about Fuaga and
Yeah.
where he's going to be. But imagine if you could get Will Campbell, dude. You could pop him in at left and put Fuaga over his natural right tackle spot.
Or Emory Jones.
That's a second-round pick, probably.
Yeah, he's falling like a stone.
Really?
He's not.
Yeah.
He's not even in that top 50.
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of conflicted about, but Will Campbell or a top tackle because
He is your top tackle right now.
yeah,
If you draft another offensive lineman that starts, the entire offensive line is under 27 years old next year.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
that's not a bad place to build, obviously.
that's where I build.
Especially if Clint's going to be here and the run forward offense with play action, it would make sense. Build up offensive line. That's what you're going to lean into.
So McCoy will be 28 next year.
If Clint,
So it'll be the oldest, right?
Yeah.
If Clint is here, I like the strategy we talked about before with go defense first round, find yourself a good starting all-pro guard, not all-pro, all-American guard in the second.
All right. It's
But if
third
Clint,
year.
you know,
It's all right. It's
because we
22.
know that another year with Clint, with Penning there, he has at least the chance to be in an offense that allows him to hide some of his deficiencies and also grow. If it's not Clint and it's somebody who's more traditional, like put your tackles on an island, then yeah, absolutely go get another tackle.
I'm just all about fortifying the lines, whether
Yeah.
it's offense or defense. And if you look at the defensive line prospects, there's really, under the current Saints profile, you guys just touched on it. They love the Chevy Suburbans, I believe you said.
I did, yeah.
Like, they love those 285, 290-pound guys, the Cam Jordans. And look, we all love Cam Jordan, but that is not and has never been an explosive pass rusher.
It's not what you find in the first round these days.
Last 2 weeks, he's played pretty well.
He's played great, and we love him. But
Yeah.
how many times have we watched the prospects, the pass rushing prospects, like a Brian Burns, for an example?
Yeah.
The Saints would never draft Brian Burns. Well, go back to last year.
We talked about it last year when I wanted to take the Bama
Georgia.
kid. No, I wanted to take the kid from Bama.
Anderson?
No,
He was there. We had him or
Dallas
Fuaga. Turner. Right.
Yeah.
Too small. We would never pick him.
too
Max
small.
is
We would
right.
never pick him. The year before, or no, it was last year,
Well-
the Georgia kid who ran the super fast 40. He ended up getting picked by the Eagles.
Outside linebacker.
Oh,
Outside
Nolan
linebacker.
Nolan Smith.
Nolan
Nolan
Smith.
Smith.
He
right.
is still very undersized for the NFL, but he's gotten a few sacks this year.
Like,
He's-
you know who the
like,
Saints will never pick?
took
And
him
it
a
would
solid
be a one
year.
pick in like the second round? Harold Perkins.
Right.
They would never pick him. And that's someone that the Eagles or some team like that is going to pick, and they're just going to deploy him as a freaking pass rusher.
That's
like,
why it also depends on who our coach is going to be, because he didn't
Right.
fit in Dennis Allen's defense. He's a tweener in a 4-3 defense.
I
but
hate the-
if you have a 3-4, put him at
I
OLB.
hate the prototypicals that we favor on defense. I hate
Right.
it. Because it's these huge defensive ends, the huge tackles, the big linebackers. That's not today's NFL. Like,
Yeah.
you need these smaller, faster guys that can fly around
Which
and
is-
just wreak havoc.
Yeah,
I'm not going to bust on that like strategy too much. We were a good defense for about 5 years in a row. So it is what it is. But when you need the game-changing play, we ran into problems all the time
Always.
at the end of games because we didn't have that guy who could get pressure.
Who's a ball
just-
hawk.
Correct. Oh,
With-
and exactly.
with
So
ball,
who-
and
both.
ball skills like Malachi Starks.
both.
You know,
Who-
And
who's
I was
the-
getting ready to say we have no safeties come a year from now probably.
Right.
So that's a huge void.
that's what, like
Starks would be a great pick.
that's
and
why-
he is floating around in
Yeah.
all the mocks I've seen, like 10, 11, 12.
yeah. And look, yes, Georgia boy, homer pick by me, but he
I hate
he fit-
Georgia, and I would
but-
be all about
but he
picking
fits
him.
the mold.
Yeah.
And for all these reasons we're mentioning about the edge, the safety, the need at safety, yes, we have a need to further fortify the O-line, but
We have
I
needs
think-
everywhere, though.
I think the talent margin, like this, you can get a definitive starter, almost plug and play at safety in the first round, or if you pick the correct defensive end edge, whereas you can find the guy with the same or similar impact as an offensive guard.
No, hold on. I'm not saying draft a guard. I would not say draft a guard with the first pick.
Not with the first pick, but I'm
But
saying
in the first round, I feel like you could go any direction. Like, let's go through it right now.
But that's what I'm saying. If we went offensive line in the first round, it would have to be tackle. And at that point,
Correct.
we're not adding a player to another position because we'd have to be removing one to put that guy in it.
Right.
So
but at the same
I'd
point,
prefer-
if you can fortify
and
the
they're
offensive
25
line,
and 23 years old right now.
I'd still prefer to see, like, I know we can't trust Penning yet, but it is weird to even be saying this at this time of the year, this point in the season, but I haven't seen enough negative from him to say that we should take our first round pick and not have that person add to the picture. Because if it's a tackle,
if he improves it, it's adding to the picture.
in,
If he comes in and has Fuaga's impact, he's adding to the picture.
I guess I'm thinking of filling by volume. I'm thinking of filling by volume.
I think you fill the guard if you're trying to get better immediately. You fill the guard position in free agency.
That's the ideal. Left guard gets filled there.
Right, they're less expensive for a pretty good guard than wait.
Or fill it in the third round.
Do that.
Yeah,
We've
and-
missed on that. We've tried.
And look, quote unquote,
Saldiveri,
worst case scenario with Penning. Say
Maybe year
say we
3
do
for him.
draft a tackle who is definitively better than Penning. Running tackle eligible having the jumbo is not just something to scoff at these days. You know,
Also, the
especially
depth when you have all the injuries.
the depth, you know, especially when you have a guy like Clint or a similar offensive-minded guy. Like, even if we were
The part
lucky
we have to consider,
and got Ben Johnson in here, he would love to have a guy like Penning as his extra tackle.
either way, when we've had the offensive line healthy, they've been good.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is as
Yeah.
a unit. The games they were all there, the offense has performed.
Yeah.
The defense has gotten blown off the field
Yeah.
all year.
Yeah.
What's the, you know, we haven't even brought up really anything other than safety there. We got throttled this week on defense. We got a couple more missed field goals.
We need another defensive tackle.
We dropped a couple picks that could have maybe changed that narrative. We gave up 400 yards passing to Jameis.
Mm-hmm.
We need a true. I mean,
Cedric
maybe,
Tillman and Jerry Judy just hung full.
Well, here's my original point, though. You can literally draft almost any position other than quarterback. And you could improve immediately.
for us. I
For
agree with
us,
that.
running back. If obviously, I'm not advocating for us to take Genty,
But it
in the
would
first round.
improve.
If you took Genty, he's elevating the running back room. He's your best running back right there.
Yeah, you're no longer
Fullback, we're not going to count, obviously. Wide receiver, go get McMillan from Arizona.
What do you mean? Obviously, fullbacks are important.
No, I know, but it's
I know.
wide receiver. Go get McMillan from Arizona. He's a step up over Olave, without question.
Tight
Tight
end.
end.
Yeah,
Loveland from any of the tight
anybody.
ends is Tyler Warren from
Warren,
Penn State
yeah.
is a massive step up
Yeah.
over our tight ends.
and he can play the Taysom role when Taysom gets hurt.
Correct. Will Campbell, you get him and you got him in Fuaga, that's a massive step up from Penning
You
and
got your
Fuaga.
bookends.
Guard, wouldn't touch it. Center, don't touch it in the first round. Defensive end, someone's a step up. Defensive tackle, someone's a step up.
Even
Linebacker,
One of them.
actually,
Well, Demario's.
You needed the Mario
you
insurance
can
could
policy.
draft
draft
a
him
line-
Mario, but you could draft one, yeah.
You need an insurance policy at this point. You know why
You need
not?
an insurance
I mean,
policy,
that talk about like young guys coming in and sitting behind a good quarterback. How awesome would it be to have a true inside linebacker or hybrid, like we talked about Jalen Walker, to come
Oh, I
in
love him.
and learn from
Yeah,
DeMario?
he would be great.
I mean, that'd be
He'd be
amazing.
great.
You know, half of those Eagles guys, everyone had much fanfare when the Eagles drafted half of the Georgia National Championship team, but a lot of those guys actually needed a whole year to sit.
yeah.
Even the guys from the top defense in college, most of them, you know, Jalen.
No, they needed time.
Jalen
They
Carter
needed
was the only one who could come in and make an impact the first year.
But then
Jordan Davis, N'Kobe Dean.
Well, hold on, let me finish it.
They all needed time, yeah.
Cornerback. You mean to tell me that
No,
Travis Hunter
no.
is, or
He's gonna
the
improve.
kid from Michigan, isn't a massive step up over Kool-Aid?
First round
and
cornerbacks a
Alante?
step up, yeah.
Safety, Malachi Starks.
And to be
Literally,
honest,
any
like,
position, you're improving the team dramatically.
And as far as Alante's proven that we need him to be somewhere in the middle. We need him to be star,
needs to be a safety.
slot,
He's a
or safety. You know, so Alante's out to me as an outside corner anyway.
I'd be terrified to pay that dude big
I mean,
outside
after
corner
this
money.
week, especially. I
Yeah.
mean, again, that's 3 weeks in a row, just massive big plays
It can't-
right through him.
It doesn't work.
He's so good
He's
when
got
he's
straight-
down
yeah.
in the box and doing that role. Why would you want to be average at something when you could be great at something? I get the
label,
the number
money,
one cornerback
yeah.
is a big big position, one of the most important in the NFL. I get it. He is a dominant player when he's playing inside and down inside the box. He's dominant.
He's a disruptor.
The only
He's
way
amazing,
Alante works
yeah.
at outside cornerback is if
He's
is in a
getting killed.
fantasy
He's getting
scenario
killed, dude.
where he just knew for 100% certainty that the guy across from him is running a go route. He can run. He's got good straight line speed, but that's it in
Yeah.
terms of covering on the outside. You know,
That-
but
I mean that.
yeah,
Remember week 1 when he had 3 sacks? Use
Right.
him like that.
he's got good. He's got
he's
good
such an
instincts
athlete.
for-
He can do so many things. I just don't know why you would not want to go to Pro Bowls as a safety / slot corner. You know, like that hybrid role, like the CJ way we
he
played.
could
CJ.
be Malcolm Jenkins of the last.
Yes. So
Like,
you hear-
why not?
You
Why
hear
would
coaches
I-
talk about it. You know, there's some defensive backs that are Hall of Famers great with their back to the ball, like a good solid lockdown outside corner. And there's other guys who excel and are great when their eyes are on the quarterback. You know, when they're just roaming the field. You're never if you are both, then you're absolutely one of
Ed
the best
Reed
of
is
all
his
time.
name, if you want to know.
Correct. Right. You know, like other guys, I'm
The
sure
true
come to mind.
goat.
But you know, like, but Alante's not that. He's better with his eyes facing forward. I mean, we've seen him panic. We've seen him morph into Paulson Adebo when his back's to the quarterback. You know, some guys are comfortable enough to just back to the quarterback, eyes light up in the receiver, and they turn around and deflect it.
Yeah.
They don't cause a, you know,
Like Kool-Aid was fine this week.
Kool-Aid
Kool-Aid's
is one.
fine. He's a rookie.
Yeah,
he's
and
doing fine.
He's one where he's not both, but he's one where you can tell he's more comfortable with his back to the
Yeah.
ball, playing fundamental outside corner. He learned from Saban,
I
learned the
would
press.
not be
Alante
surprised
scares me.
if those are our three corners next year, though. I think they're probably content with Kool-Aid, Alante, and Debo. They're going to bring a Debo back. I'm telling you, it's going
I
to
don't
be.
think it's a slam dunk at Debo.
It's a very low. It's going to be a very low asking price for him, and I just find it hard that he would go somewhere else when he needs to have a show me year.
Yeah.
Why leave into a new environment, completely new environment? I just feel everything points to him being back.
Well,
where I was 50.
I think it's
on that.
50-50 still.
The only way you have a significant additional name in the cornerback room is if it's a best player scenario situation in the draft early. You know, because the draft, we only have so many picks. Free agency, we can only sign so many players, very limited. And so there's going to get a point in training camp where
It's
it's
another
like,
thing you're not signing in free agency as a starting corner.
Correct. You should not. Please,
Unless
Mickey,
you got big
don't,
money.
Don't do the Mickey math and do that. I mean,
They get traded, they don't get
has
signed.
not worked well in the past for us. Right. So, you know, like you're going to get to a point right before training camp where you're just saying like, look, we haven't filled every hole and we can't fill every hole. We have to roll with what we have and hope some guys can overachieve and hope our coaches can ball out. That's just the reality of where this team is in terms of depth and to a large degree starters right now. It just we're not in that blessed mode we were in back in the 2018, 2011.
Yeah, I think they're going to follow the same blueprint that they followed this past offseason and the offseason before, where it was just they exercised restraint. There was no, other than Derek Carr, there was no actual real big money handed out to anybody. You know, they had the safety that came in, ended up signing with the Falcons. Simmons.
KK.
They entertained him, and his asking price, they were like, no, we're good. We can't. So they have exercised restraint. They've pulled back on the spending. So I think you're going to see, and he said he was going to do it again. He said this is a multi-year process. So you're going to see them hand out 1-year deals to the veterans, you know, like your Ugo Amatis and people like that, Will Harris's. They're going to do that, and they're basically going to have to build through the draft and undrafted free agents. They're not going to be able to go after people. Like, I know people are like, go after T. Higgins. I would love to have T. Higgins here. There's no way in hell
There's
they're
no
going to go
reason
after
to
him.
sign T.
There's no reason to. Well,
a $30 million receiver, there's no reason right now for that. Especially because you're going to, unless they've already made a decision on Olave, because, you know, after next year, you have to make that decision. They have to decide on his 5th-year option, right?
This is his 3rd year. Yes, they'll have to sign it. They'll have to decide.
They'll have to decide, like, right. And you don't want to decide that right now with him not even knowing
6 concussions in 5
years.
Or
so
4 years.
They may not even exercise that 5th-year option with that health history, not because of his skill, but because of his health. They would absolutely do it if he didn't have the health issues. But are they going to do that? That's a question mark now, I think.
Yeah.
I still say they probably do it, but
I don't know, man.
We're just in a certain reality right now, and that is, you know, I know that we've made splash signings with terrible cap situations in the past, but
they're not going to do it.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
And so there's no reality in which we bring in a free agent who everyone's like gung-ho and excited about because he's a household name and he's a damn good talent.
There will
and
be
he's
no
super
big
athletic.
signings.
There's no possible way for us to do that. And so it's going to be stopgap in free agency. That's or, you know, hope you can buy.
And that's fine. That's fine. Do it.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it.
But
get the cap
that's what we're looking
where the cap needs to be, to where in 2026 you can actually go after a player or two. And, you know, I just,
or when it's time to move on from Carr,
it's time to pay the bills.
Then you can pony up with, and hopefully you've developed other guys around you at the key foundational positions, and then
I've just come to
let it go.
In my mind, that keeping Carr around for multiple years here is going to be the best rebuilding strategy. And you just take.
I've come around on that.
That means no big moves is what I mean. No big moves is the best way to rebuild this. If the quarterback happens to get to you, do it. Go for it.
I know it's not sexy. It's not exciting. A lot of fans will hate it just because of just how they feel about Carr. And you'll never be able to talk them off of that ledge. But if you're looking at this rationally and logically, to me, it makes sense. Now, are there other alternatives that someone could present to me and maybe I could be convinced? Of course, there always are. But right now, given what we have, given our cap situation, given how we typically perform in the draft, because the draft hasn't been a slam dunk in a while, do we hit on one or two guys? sure, but yeah, you just at the QB position, like who out there in the draft or that you could realistically get in free agency would be so much better than Carr to make it worth it?
No one.
Nobody.
No one. I'm with him on this. You at this point, if Carr is going to play to this level or just comparable to this level over the next year or two, keep Carr because his contract goes down in value, monetary value every single season.
Yeah.
To where every year that goes by, that dude's contract looks better and better.
And there's also a reality of the market. You look at the Daniel Jones contract. It's not because he's so damn good. It's because the other teams are so damn stupid that they keep paying the middle of the road quarterbacks top dollar.
Look at Trevor Lawrence.
Right. It's just because
this is one of the things we talked about.
So
and I said, are we sure Carr's not better than Trevor Lawrence? I said that when we had our whole show about it, because if you're really watching what Trevor Lawrence is doing.
Before this year, I was on the fence. Now, obviously.
Y'all both barely put him ahead, and I'm like, but are we certain? And the answer is no, you're not certain yet. Right. You couldn't say that with certainty.
Yeah. Because Carr's how old again?
33.
You're going to be
so the reality is, if he was 20,
you're betting on youth, not performance.
That's why I put Lawrence ahead of him, because I said only because he was 23, 24. I
if
said
Carr
that's the only reason.
was the exact same person with the exact same production and was also coming out of the last year of his rookie contract, he would be getting paid.
Yes.
Daniel Jones.
He'd be getting $260 million.
He'd be getting, exactly. And that's not because of how good he is. It's because of what the market has done around him.
I just found the actual stats, Corey.
And so,
So your guess on Carr's completion percentage is the same.
65.
68.5. Second in the league over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Touchdown interception ratio.
I'm gonna miss on the touchdowns, but I feel like he's call it 22 to 8.
38 to 12 over a 3-1. That's elite TD to interception ratio.
So 38 touchdowns and
12 picks. In
last year and this
year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess those first 2 weeks accounted for quite a few.
I mean, he had 20. What do you have? 26 last year? 27 last year. 27 and 8 last year, I think, or 26 and 8 last year.
Yeah.
And this year he's 12 and 4. That's elite TD to interception ratio.
I'm honestly
just
surprised.
For context, that's a higher completion percentage than Breeze as a Saint. That's a higher touchdown interception ratio than Breeze as a Saint. He's nowhere near Breeze, but like that quarterback, just if you're going on what's actually happening on the field and not putting it in, Trevor's younger, these type of things.
I've said this before in other episodes, and they do it on SportsCenter or NFL Network all the time. If you put up a silhouette, no name, player A, player B, which one are you giving the big contract?
Right.
Team needs a quarterback. You don't have one.
And if you put him in that silhouette,
are you giving this guy market rate for starting quarterback?
Right.
You would.
Yeah.
You just would. But it's everything else that has come with Carr. That
I get it. He's a very difficult person to like. I totally get it. I'm
just
saying, if you're watching the play on the field, and if you watch our team, you have a small sample size without him now.
Yeah.
If you watch those two things, there's a huge difference. There's no way to debate that now. And I know one's a rookie. I get it. I'm just saying the root of all of our problems has not been Carr. Yeah. And we have to acknowledge that. We have much bigger problems.
And this isn't to say that Rattler and Haener can't develop further, but I think Carr's absence this year not only proved what we are missing when he's out, but it also proved that we don't have a backup. Until we see market improvement so that's another thing you're probably going to have to go look for in free agency is a good old grizzled vet that can just come in here.
Nah, I'm fine. You can roll with Haener. I'm fine with it.
They got to based on what we've seen.
You're not contending next year. You don't need a high price.
I hate spending money on the back.
You don't need to spend it.
I'm not saying spend
how's it
a
going
lot.
For Dallas
I'm not saying spend a lot, but I'm saying just like something affordable, like get a little Toyota.
They're not affordable though. Like a good vet.
There's a Toyota Camry out there.
A good backup vet
Didn't Jameis
like
get $8
$4
million?
million. Huh?
What did he get? What did Jameis get?
Yeah, they're not cheap, dude.
Tyrod got $7 million.
Roll with Haener. It's his third year. He'll be fine. But I will say this about Carr. Carr's has not been unlikable this year.
This year, no.
This year, if
definitely gotten better.
If you just look at the 2024 season, Carr's fine. I have no issues with him.
No, look,
it was last year where I had issue with multiple things he said and how he handled it. This year, no problems.
This is kind of like this is the reason the NFL makes the real reason the NFL makes the big bucks, because you got your football story arcs, your X's and O's, then you got your social story arcs. You got your everything else that's happening off the field, right? And Carr, at least from the local story arcs, it's literally like last year he was the kid that showed up at school where everybody already knew each other, and he moved in from out of town. Everyone's like, "Who's this kid? He's kind of weird. He says things weird. That was dumb. That pissed me off." And no one wanted to like him. Everyone's like, "He's just different. He doesn't jive here."
4 million? No. That was all.
Yeah.
But it's like
That's the total. Okay, well that's not a bad.
I'm
deal.
sorry, signing bonus 2.7.
But the
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was like 7 or 8 million total.
So 6.5.
6.5.
I'm just saying.
But the car fan reception story arc is like he came in as the new kid at school last year.
Yeah.
Came in like guns blazing, and it was like, dude, you got to chill. He didn't acclimate. He wasn't jiving with the community and the fans and all that stuff. But it's like his second year in school. He's gotten used to people. He's gotten to know more people, and he's slowed his roll a lot. Like,
yeah, but
in terms of what he says.
He was also DA's guy. And that's
that didn't
how
help.
it was
Right,
portrayed.
but it didn't
That
help
was the
either.
bigger
Right.
issue.
That didn't help either.
Because we associated them as being a package deal, one and the same.
Because they defended each other mutually.
Correct.
It was
But
reciprocal.
here's the deal.
And,
Jake
yeah.
Hayner next year, his contract is $1 million.
Oh no, he's
I'm
cheap.
paying
He's dirt
Hayner
cheap.
$1 million to be the backup on a team that's rebuilding or retooling, reloading, whatever you want to say, before I'm paying somebody
For
like
me,
Jameis $4 million.
it's another one of those things. Show me the example where having that backup quarterback.
Yeah.
The best example you're going to get is Teddy, and Teddy didn't play well.
Or
we won games.
For us. I mean,
Right.
the ultimate example of a backup
coming back.
is
Is he coming back where?
Apparently he's coming. He said
After high school coach?
yeah, he said once we finish this run to the state titles.
great. Let's go
Apparently
get
he's coming
Teddy.
back.
He'll
On
get
the
a
cheap,
backup
vet
job.
min.
That's good.
But
I love Teddy.
I mean,
obviously,
like
he's not that
the
good.
dream
He's
scenario is Nick Foles, right? But
Yeah,
you know,
that's true. That's
but
a good one.
That's kind of
That's probably the only one in the last 15 years that you could point to.
Yeah.
I would say. Now, and to be fair, Nick Foles had a season where he was an MVP candidate prior. He wasn't. You're not getting that type, but that was kind of a unique
Yeah.
situation.
And you're
the
also
27-2 year with the
Yeah.
Eagles a couple.
You're
years
also
back.
not free agent signing other historical backups like Tom Brady or Tony Romo. Like not that Romo won much of anything, but when he came in, both of whom replaced Bledsoe, obviously, like they came in and won games. We don't have that guy. I'm not asking us to get that guy.
I'm just saying we don't
think,
need to be spending more than the NFL minimum
Right.
on a backup next year. We just don't.
I think if you can find a veteran for the minimum, then do it.
You're not finding one who's worth a shit who's going to play for
I mean,
$1 million.
I'll take Andy back for $2.5 million. If that's what you
think
mean.
he's coming for $2.5
That's
million?
That's what I mean.
He got 3 from them, right?
We'll see.
I think
I
even
think he
an
got
Andy
3.
Dalton would service your team better than Hayner until proven otherwise.
Andy Dalton has a 2-year, $10 million contract.
What was the guarantees? It's like 3 or 4
it's
million,
not. It's
I think.
not going to be a
It's
$5
much.
million cap hit each year. I mean, it's going to be something less. But
$5 million signing bonus, $8 million guaranteed.
Okay, so 4-year guarantee. All right.
You know.
So if he wanted, I don't know, maybe he's going to be there obviously for that.
no, I
money.
wouldn't
He'll
want
still
that.
be-
I
I
don't-
don't want us to sign that type of guy at the expense of getting another position we really need. I'm
But
not
it's
saying
going
that.
to be at the expense if you spend $4 million on somebody.
Yeah, we've been floating around with extra
That's a
space
starter.
this year. So.
That extra space gets sucked right out of the fucking wallet pretty quickly once the new books
Foles
hit.
is your one example. Flacco last year's a good example. There just aren't that many cases where a backup comes in and you're able to even hold serve, right? It's pretty rare. So I'm not a big fan of having money wrapped up in a backup, like the old Chase Daniel when he got the who gave him money, Chiefs gave him.
Oh, God,
whatever
yeah.
that was to back up over there. I'm not a fan
They
of
get
that.
money to be a starter or to compete.
Or remember Matt Flynn?
Remember, he was supposed to have a chance, and then he
Against
lost
who?
it. Fuck, I don't remember.
I don't recall.
Who'd he lose the job to? Because he never was a
I don't
starter.
remember.
And Alex Smith was there either that year or the next year.
I think it was
Okay.
Alex Smith.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't need to get wrapped up in the backup game. I mean, even if you go way back to like the Matt Flynn contract, holy shit!
I'm just
right?
saying that we are
Like,
damn near
no,
$80
we don't need
million
to do that.
over the cap. We don't need to be giving $4 million to a backup quarterback who's not going to, probably isn't going to make any bit of a difference.
Agree. So
Yeah.
it's
If it were the Breeze teams of like 2017, 2018, absolutely. Go get a backup and spend the money.
Where you want to go 500 when
Where
he's
you
out.
just need to go 500 for the 4
Yeah.
games he misses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're close to wrapping it up, but one last thing.
We gotta go over the
I want-
predictions and all that,
Yeah, we'll
too.
do that at the very end. But the energy does seem better, like Corey said in the beginning. Does the team look that much better? Because
They
to
look the
me,
same.
I feel like it looks the same, and we're catching breaks versus not catching breaks. It's really weird.
How
And-
many field goals have the opposing team missed over the last 2
Well,
weeks?
if you count the one that we got a penalty on, they've missed 6.
Yeah, we
Unbelievable.
needed the coup misses.
We needed
those.
these.
I
This
mean,
game was a one-score game with 5 minutes left.
Nick,
Let's not forget that.
To your point in the text thread we had going, you were talking about the RIZZ game plan is just all the opposing team's going to miss all the field goals.
Here's
and they
our,
have.
Let's implement the strategy. They'll miss
They're
their
0-6.
field goal.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's hard to say. Right. I mean, like, if you look at the measurables, you can't really. I mean, now we're better than we were in
In the
Carolina
Rattler
in the
game.
Carolina
Well,
game. Like, you know, in the
We
games
dominated the Carolina game, though.
No. I mean, like the one we lost.
We've been better in the fourth
No, we did.
quarter.
We dominated
We've
that
been
game.
better in the fourth quarter. Which, if you listen to the broadcast this week, you didn't hear it. I forgot which announcer said it. They said, who was it? Belichick said that there's basically every game is essentially 2 games. There's the first 3 quarters is 1 game. The fourth quarter is its own separate game. So the Saints didn't fucking play the second game for like the first 9 weeks.
Right.
The last 2 weeks, we have played in the fourth quarter and done
And
well.
I do think that's where, if you're going to ask me where it's been different, it's been the finishing factor. And that's something that RIZZ, you know, he's had his interviews on local media. You hear players talk about it. One of his biggest mantras.
But energy doesn't miss field goals either, right?
That's fair, but that happens. You know, now we've had a lot. I'm not gonna downplay that. All right. Like, we've definitely gotten lucky, but when we've had to finish, we've finished. We've had other breaks in other games where we had the ability to finish and we didn't finish, and it's
Agree, but did we
fact.
finish? Let me
This
just
week
go
we
back.
did.
This week we did.
Yes.
But we could have definitively finished if we catch the interceptions right into Mario's hands. Last week, the AK drop, the penning holdings on back-to-back drives, keeping
Yeah.
Atlanta around.
Yeah.
We
But-
didn't really
But at the
finish.
end of the day,
they didn't
But
finish.
how? Well, they
We
didn't
finished
finish,
this
but
week,
the
though.
defense.
Taysom finished him with
the
a
defense
75
held them.
yard
How many
touchdown.
games have
the
we seen?
drive before that really is
Even
what
with
finished
DA, where
The
the
long,
defense,
methodical.
the same defense, the same players are on that field, even with the sometimes same play caller in Joe Woods.
It's just as bad.
And
They look the same,
not
honestly.
just as bad. Where the Eagles have a drive to win, or the Falcons
That, no,
scored
but
when they had to
that
score.
has been the difference is
We've
the
finished.
fourth quarter.
Right, that's a big deal. I think you
We
can't downplay
finished,
that.
we finished on Sunday. The Falcons game, if Koo makes any of those damn field goals, we
a
fucking
different
probably
game.
lose.
Yeah,
no,
it's a
we
different
probably
game.
lose.
We
If
play-
Koo does what Koo normally does, we probably lose.
The offense-
AK dropped the
the-
game
the
sealer.
offense-
Penning
I
two
thought for sure we were losing when he
the
dropped
offense
that.
had a chance to close it out in the
three
Falcons
times.
game.
3 times.
They did not.
They did not.
When the defense was given the opportunity to close it out, they showed up. They got sacks. They got costly sacks.
They did.
Against
They
the
got that
Falcons.
sack. I give it to you.
That caused the clock to run, put them in a terrible position to get them in a spot
Let me just
to
put
come
it
back.
this way:
I
if
think
you're
but let
always
me-
dependent
let me-
on the big play on the last drive, you're going to lose a lot of games.
Of course, but I do think, and look, there is no way to measure this, of course, as is so often the case, but it's documented. RIZZ has said it, the players have said it. He is coming there, and more so than DA, because every coach says finish, play hard, through the whistle.
I
But
completely
he is-
appreciate his attitude.
He has
I love it.
made it a point in practice, and he's RIZZ on the radio. I was listening to him on the radio talking with the WWL guys, and he's like, we don't just tell the team, hey, you got to play in the fourth quarter as a way of finishing. He's like, whether or not you finish something out is a habit. So every tiny opportunity they get in practice, finish out your drill strong. Finish out
I
this
just
period
don't see
strong.
that on the field the way you
So-
do. I think I see it
That's
a little
fine.
different.
You don't have to, but I do think that's the difference.
We're seeing it in the fourth quarter in spurts. We didn't see it at all. We saw the opposite where we made the bad play to give the game away in the first 9 weeks.
Correct.
So my thing is, I'm not going to get too high with the highs right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm
I
not
want to
saying-
see
yeah.
what happens with the Rams game because that is going to be a true test. We have the cornerback situation right now is rough. You got to deal with Puka and Cup and Stafford.
That's going to be really hard.
That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
That defense is going to be tougher than the ones we face.
Yeah,
this is an actual good team.
We can bring all the messaging. I'll admit, we can bring all the messaging we want. The team can be thinking, I got to finish as much as they want, but that matchup's just not good.
It's not good at all.
So, like, that, you can't overcome that.
Now, if we win that game,
if you play poorly,
and we look good doing it, then I'll be bought in it.
that's your first litmus test of RIZZ as, I mean, granted, it's both the interim tag, but against a quality opponent or an opponent with a winning, well, they might have a winning record by then, but nonetheless a quality opponent. Whereas the Atlanta game, it's an emotional game. It's a rival game. It's his first
Rams
game.
have a winning record, right? Is that what you're talking
they're I think
they're
they're
500.
500 right now.
I thought they were 5-4. No, they're 4-4.
5-5, I believe. but my point is, like, it'll be the first kind of like neutral game. Now, it is good it's a home game, but it's not his first game, which he got a boost because it was his first game, and it was a boost because it was the Falcons. So, yeah, the Falcons had a winning record. He beat them, but it's the Falcons, right? Then you get the Browns. Okay, obviously the Browns found ways to lose that game just as much as we maybe played, quote unquote, played better, right?
And again, it was we did finish. I 100% agree with you.
We did what we had
finished
to
it on
do.
offense. That long drive to give it the 2-score lead. That drive was a perfect drive.
Yeah,
but that was a 7-point game with 5 minutes left, and I don't think we need to forget that. And that they gave us points.
I was going to say it's also a bit of a breather for the defense in terms of having to get stops, because Jameis got as many stops for that for us than our defense did. I mean, the inaccuracy, he was
like I said, they had
out.
450 yards. This was not a bad offensive performance as far as moving the ball. It was it's the forever Jameis thing, right? When you need it, it's not there.
We benefited from Jameis Winston's play more than anything in that game. Brian Baldinger had the best term. I'd never seen it before, but he was right. He said Jameis Winston put on an aerial circus in that game.
Dude, he
and
was
I was like,
wait,
I was like, that term.
Dude, he was overthrowing people by 10 feet.
That term is amazing because it perfectly encapsulates it. Yeah. You're just like, circus can be great. Circus can also be ugly. It can be awful. And Jameis he's like,
if you look at the stat line, you're like, man, almost 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw 2 directly into Mario's face mask.
It's unbelievable he didn't have a pick. But the point is, the Rams game, will be the first one where it's like, look, you got a quality opponent. There's no more emotional high from being named the new interim. You coming off a bye week, so you got a lot of downtime. It's more like business-like preparation. So what are you going to do? How are you going to overcome
what's crazy
the
about
obvious
that game
difficulties in the matchup?
They play the Eagles, so presumably they'll be 5-6. You beat them, you now are ahead of them.
Crazy, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Eagles.
They might, but they've been awesome with the receivers back for sure. But this last game,
where are they playing? L.A. or Philly?
I think it's at Philly, isn't it?
I don't know. Speaking of circuses, Taysom was kind of a circus.
That was
You got literally everything.
All the good ways.
The good, the bad, the great.
You're right. I mean,
the bad was pretty bad.
He and I were going back and forth. He's like, player of the game. I'm like, Taysom. He's like, no, he got the 2 turnovers. I can't do it. Rips off the 75-yard touchdown. I'm like,
but
now you got to give it to him.
Yeah.
Before that, I wouldn't have given it to him.
I would have.
2 touchdowns versus 2 a fumble inside the 5 going into score.
They're costly. Yeah.
Huge.
It's at the Rams.
Oh, it's at Rams. Okay, so maybe they win that one. We don't want them to if we want any chance at. I still believe 9-8 gets in the NFC. I don't know if all 9-8 teams get in, but a 9-8 team's getting in the playoffs.
We have a hard time with the tiebreaker with the Falcons. I was looking at the records.
We don't have it. We can't catch them. We have to be ahead of them.
They have to lose
because they have division record already sewn up.
We have to be a game ahead of them.
Done.
Right.
All right. So anyway, why don't we jump over to last week's predictions and see where we stand?
Well, I think we all got it right, so we're all back on track there.
The
win. That's Corey's first point in a while, I think.
We all had AK, who was good, but not the game changer. Obviously, it was Taysom with the 3 touchdowns and leading receiver, leading rusher, at least receptions-wise, leading receiver. Not Valdez-Scantling had the long one. He only had 2 catches though. But
I missed on my defensive prediction. I could see that.
Did you get it?
Well, we've all tried to make Alante win this thing. All of us have taken turns.
At some point.
He will not. We need him back in his old role before any of us pick him again there. Max picked Alante. I picked Honey Badger. Nothing of consequence for him. DeMario, he was good, but he wasn't.
Wait, who would you put over him?
Brzee for me.
What?
He was back there a lot. He was causing a lot.
DeMario had, and it's not just because I picked him, but I really liked DeMario's game. He had 13 tackles.
If he catches one of the 2 that hit him in the face mask,
he had the big tackle for loss, the stop on 4th down. He's speared his way in there, and he had 2 pass defense. I mean, I don't know.
The pass defense bounced off his face.
Okay, your middle linebacker didn't catch the ball, so take a score off. I mean,
which big? I don't remember the big tackle for loss you're talking about.
I don't either.
They went for it on 4th and 1, and he got in the backfield and took Nick Chubb down.
I don't remember.
It happened.
I thought the whole line just stuffed him and tackled him a yard behind the line of scrimmage. I didn't realize it was DeMario.
The line stuffed Cleveland's O-line. DeMario had the opening and made the first hit on Chubb and wrapped him up.
I look.
I text Max right at the game ended. I said, for me, it's Taysom and Brzee. So I'm just gonna stick with that.
I mean, look, I'm not saying Brzee didn't have a
No, I agree with Taysom and Brzee. Brzee was an animal. He had 1.5 sacks. He was disruptive.
All right. I will say though, my DeMario prediction was spot on. I said 8+ tackles, one tackle for loss, 1 PBU.
Yep.
And he had 2.
And he played well. I'm not knocking
No, he
him. I
played
just
very
think
well.
So if y'all aren't going to give me my pick, I'm giving myself credit for the prediction stat line.
you nailed the stat line. The lock you missed.
No, you did.
But
You said 8.
I said 8.
said over 8.
8
Yeah.
plus.
I mean, he's a safe bet for 8 every week.
And I said a tackle for
This
loss
is the
and a
part
pass
that,
defense. And he had that.
the part that bothers me is you see games like that where he's just manhandling a guy. He really did.
Yeah.
He was that guy was going backwards. I don't know who was blocking him.
Yeah.
He was pushing people in the backfield constantly. And then we'll have games where we don't even hear his name for the entire game.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that about him. But he's he's leading the team in sacks now, is he not? 5.5?
It definitely disrupted their running attack. And you mentioned in the preview where, it was kind of like, can we expect Nick Chubb to be Nick Chubb? But then also when you look at the way the Browns have been...
Spoiler alert, we cannot.
You can't, but when you look at the Browns rushing attack...
They didn't try and run it either.
Last year, when Ford had to come in, he did pretty well. This year, he is not. And so I think their O-line is not the same O-line that helped them run the
Yeah, it's
ball
not.
in years past. And then we took advantage of that. Brzee was in the backfield. They couldn't get the running
But they
lanes
threw
open.
the ball like 70% of the time too. They did. This is a one-score game until 5 minutes, and they just didn't try and run the
They had
ball
a
at
horrible
all.
game plan. Yeah.
It was as well as we played, I think, on offense and moments on defense. What they did was poorly done all across the board. It was bad.
We benefited for the first time in a while. We benefited a lot from what the other team did wrong.
Yeah, first time in a long time, honestly.
Yeah, because hell, even the Panthers didn't really fuck that many things up when they beat us.
How many sacks do you think DeMario has on the season?
DeMario?
Yeah.
1.
Yeah. Brzee has 5.5. He's leading
the team. So that he might get 10 sacks. So we might have actually hit on that, but where's the consistency?
Yeah.
We need disruption from game to game.
You're talking to me right now like I just said Brzee's a bad player.
No.
I just thought DeMario had a better overall game.
I'm just trying to make a point that
No, I think Brzee was more
I think this
impactful.
guy has game record potential. We just don't see it enough.
He needs to string it together. And he's still young as shit.
Yeah.
Just 21?
23.
I thought
He's 23.
21
I
when
know
we
you read
drafted
the
him.
tweet that Joe Horn's cell phone put out there. Because I responded to you. I said he's 23. He's like, yeah, you're right. It was 21 when he was drafted.
You tell me I can't believe everything on the internet?
There you go.
I
know we all love that account.
But he was 22, right as the season started, I think.
Yeah.
He's young. He's
He
young.
was.
He's
But
very
yeah,
young.
still second year.
He's very
Doesn't
young.
age or not, second year.
23 for your second year is fine.
He's a mountain of a man that moves like he's not a mountain, and he's young as shit.
I get upset when he's 25 in your third year.
Well, that's the same
Or
thing. is it
Shaheed
not?
when you're like 26 in your third year.
He'll be 24 starting his third year.
Yeah, like
Penning turned 25 after the year started. They're like 10 months, probably
some
10 month difference, something like that.
old draftees but the Falcons are gonna have a 30-year-old second-year quarterback next year, Michael Penix.
Bo Nix is almost retiring, right?
Yeah,
Like Olave, who came out as a senior, is going to be 25 for his,
Fourth year.
fourth year. I mean, that's pretty damn good for staying all 4 years in college.
Yeah, except he doesn't play, so.
yeah.
It was a good run.
It's just,
Was
I
it?
mean, it got to the point where he gets hurt too much. He's up. Now it's just like you just.
He's going to be 27. That's fucking
I mean,
crazy.
let's be honest though.
Yeah, he
With
had a weird
Olave,
path.
at this point, you hope the dude's fucking okay. Because that many concussions, like when you have 1 or 2, and he's getting the little hamstrings here and there, you're like,
do you
dude, do you need to get tougher? Now that he's had 4 in the past 2 years, you're just like, I just hope your brain.
How do
is
you
okay.
sign that guy? That's an honest question.
No,
How do you
you-
sign it? You cannot sign that guy.
Cannot.
Yeah.
You can't pay him the 25-30 million because the
can't.
risk is way too high.
gotta
Wait,
let-
one last question, and then we'll wrap it up, but I'll pose it to both of you. Let's say the Falcons lose the next 2 weeks. We win the next 2 weeks. We're right there in the thick of it. It's going to come down to the last couple of games. Do you bring back Olave off of IR to make the push?
No.
I think that's up to Olave. I'm not about telling people what to do. I don't think the team should push him to do anything. I think he should just, if he wants to play, I laugh at Tua constantly coming back because if I'm Tua at this point, I'm really considering not coming back.
Yeah.
But if the doctors say he's good and he wants to come back, my answer is yes. If the
So
doctor,
both of you say player's discretion.
yes,
Okay.
I think it's the
that's
player.
the answer.
I have no problem with him saying I'm not playing this year. Zero
I'd be
problem
more
with that.
inclined to be the coach that says no.
That's where I was going
and
with
not
this.
not
If
give him the
you-
chance, because
right.
if you give the player the chance,
That's
the
kind of what I was
player's-
going to go for.
The
Would
player's
you
going
even
to take
offer it up to him, or would you be like, no, for his health, he needs to stay on the sideline for the rest of this year?
If the doctors clear him independently, I'm not stopping him from playing.
Okay. And you, on the other hand, would lean on the side
I would
of
need like
caution and
3
say-
opinions to say.
Well, yeah, and again,
Yeah.
I'm fine with him saying I need 3 opinions. Like I think he needs to make his own personal choice, and I think Rizzy should go to him and say, "Look, we're good either way. Whatever.
Yeah,
This has nothing to do with trying to make a playoff push, but you've
'Cause-
been cleared. Let me know where your head's at. Let me know how you feel."
Literally.
Yeah.
And if we really think we have a chance,
But-
there's the thing that happens with Carr, with any QB, where they kind of like anchor down to that one guy who's their new shiny toy, or the guy that hadn't been there for a while, that they, they almost like stop looking at other guys to the detriment of, to the benefit of the other guy, of Olave.
The truth is,
Breeze
Olave
even did it
is
with
frail.
Jimmy
Let's
Graham.
just
Yeah.
call it what it is. He's a very small guy. Even though he's not so overly short, I think he weighs
very thin.
180. He shows very much smaller than that.
And
on the
again,
field.
you don't have Drew Brees throwing you the ball. You don't have Patrick Mahomes with this insane accuracy throwing you the ball to guarantee.
I mean, he's got
that
2
every
concussions
that
just
every pass is
catching
going to
the
be a
ball.
safe hit. You've
Okay,
got-
let's not start with the hospital bullshit.
Yeah.
no, but it's very possible Carr could just have an errant pass, and if he does, it happens again.
It's also
not gonna be
possible
intentional, but-
safety just levels him way after the play.
Yeah, it's also football.
The guy in Panthers did, yeah.
So
But I mean-
it's football, exactly. And when he gets hit, he goes down hard all the time.
I would keep him out.
Okay.
I don't know.
You would offer it up to him. We don't need to go into a
I
20
just
minute
think
thing.
I think
This
it's the
is-
person who's dealing with the problems call.
You know who you're
I don't
talking
think
to,
the
right?
team should have. I don't think the team should tell him anything what to do, because this is his health. But it's his choice. It's his life.
I should have phrased it better. I guess my thing was, what would you do? Would you offer it to him, or would you say,
Yes,
no,
I would
I'm
offer
not
it.
even offering him the possibility. He needs to sit out.
I would say,
I'm not
say,
You
doing
would just sit him out. You would.
I would say if you
offer
bring
to
a
him.
lawyer in
I'm
here
not
and
about
say
telling
like your
people what to do.
contract doesn't let me as the coach tell you.
Yeah,
you
but if
can't
you're
try
a
to
coach,
play.
you're not an attorney at the same time.
If he was in college, he would not play,
That's what I'm saying. If I was a coach and not an attorney, I would say if you get some lawyers,
because I
in
have
here,
to protect you. He's a grown man. He's a millionaire, paid professional. It's his career. It's his decision. 100%. There should be
His
no
choice,
pressure from
pro
the team.
choice.
Yeah, it's his choice. It's his life.
All right, let's wrap it up. We've gone on long enough.
All right. Yes, that's going to do it. We, bye week.
Bye week, baby.
You're probably listening to
Corey
this
might
on
get a point right on the prediction. this week.
Wednesday. I'm going to go into the lab for my locks, so no locks this week, other than we won't lose. And, we're going to try to see what we can drum up in terms of
You need to hit one of
some
these.
older
This-
episodes.
This lock is looking pretty lonely.
Yeah, it needs more locks, for sure.
0-5.
Got close. We got close this week.
We should give him a heavier lock every time he misses. Maybe we should switch it.
Ooh, there's a giant
Maybe if
one I saw there.
if some pain comes with missing, you'll stop missing.
That would not end well. Then I really would have to go to Louisville to see Paul.
So we'll be watching Atlanta for sure, because all of a sudden it's at least gotten mildly interesting. So
Yes.
that's what we'll be watching next weekend.
Someone give the plug for Paul.
That's right. If these guys go through with the plan and add heavier locks every time I miss, there will be 8 of these by the end of the
We
year.
might need a makeup lock.
At least 6.
We need 2 locks for the Rams game, Corey. 2.
And I will.
Ooh, I like that. 2 locks next week.
double lock.
Double lock.
We could double lock it.
Double
lock
Norton
it a week.
Leatherman lock. Double lock.
Double lock it.
All right,
And
so-
but if this thing gets too heavy and I need some spine work, I would be going to the Norton Leatherman Spine Center of Louisville, Kentucky, seeing our good friend Paul Silvestri, who is a sponsor of this podcast and is responsible for the locks of the week, which will be coming to you next week. Not this week, but next week, as we've just established a double lock.
Double lock.
Double lock coming soon. And with
Anyway.
that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you for listening to the 28 to 3 podcast. Who dat?
Who dat?
What a comeback!